Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Michael, also known as Indoléstic. I'm the founder over at Rhozeland, and this is the first Rhoze Podcast to introduce the stories of artists, creators all around the world. It starts here in Toronto, and we're here at the Vibe Station over in Toronto. Shout out the Super Team, Canada, and we're here participating in the Coliseum. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Vanshika. Give us an introduction of who you are.
Hi guys, so I'm Vanshika. I'm the marketing lead over at Rhozeland. So I'm also a DJ and a songwriter on the side, and working on Rhozeland's many ventures. And the main point of this podcast is to talk about Rhozeland, right? But also emphasis on the Rhoze, about like people's obstacles, their stories, and how they overcame them and how they rose above them all. So let's start with our founder, Michael. What's your story?
Yeah, I mean, great way to start it on off. I've been the founder over at Rhozeland the last 10 years, and I started off as a designer. It led to photography, led to some video, made some music, but now it's all about encompassing everything together, right? Rhozeland is a multimedia company, we're a creative studio. You can say that we started off as an agency, but these days we're really evolving into this ecosystem, this platform, really focused on technology. And it's cool because Vanshika was just talking about the idea of Rhozeland, or the idea of how we rose together. And I think that's just a big part of the podcast, right? We want to emphasize and focus on the stories and struggles of just overcoming what it took to get to where you're at today. And that's why we rose, right? Rhozeland. How are you feeling about it all today? How's your day going?
I think it's pretty good. So like the hackathon's been a busy time. We've been doing so much user testing. There's lots of tweeting, whatnot. It's the last few days of the hackathon before our submission.
A lot of updates.
Sorry, Twitter. Sorry.
A lot of updates.
Oh yeah, a lot of updates, a lot of new things with the app itself. It's great hearing like people's experience with it, like seeing them firsthand navigate this stuff, and tell us like, oh, this is actually fixing this problem, or this. And also the honest criticism is also helping a lot, right?
It does.
That this needs to be better and all. So it's been pretty cool. How are you finding it all?
I mean, it's been a grind, personally, just getting it all together. But the grind feels so right. And I always think about just doing it with just the team that we have here, and just the support that everything is just being offered, whether here at the Coliseum, the build stations, or just even within the creative ecosystem. There's just so much going on in our city personally, and I think it's just trying to transfer that energy to something a little bit more worldwide. And being a founder, just doing this for so long, you realize that you have to make adjustments all the time, and you can't just stay stagnant, and trends are always going. So I think that's one thing I just try to keep to myself, and just tell myself every time we're going through these, big transitions, because I think the company right now, Rhozeland, is in the biggest transition ever, and it's just about making it right and making it smooth for everyone.
Yeah, I gotta say though, in order to rose, you first gotta be at the bottom.
Yes.
Okay, so walk us through baby Michael, who was first of all like you before Rhozeland came about, right? Like, how did you get into art? You mentioned graphic design. So are you self-taught, or is it something you just stumbled about like as a hobby?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I've been self-taught, and I always like to tell people jokes. You've probably heard it if you've met me before, that I'm a professional button clicker. Just been clicking buttons my whole life. It started off on Paint. So that was the first program I was using, Paint. That was over on Windows. Okay. And I remember I used to make comic books, straight up. I used to make like virtual digital comic books. There's this thing called sprites. So again, these are like graphics in video games, and I would take these graphics from these games like Mario or Zelda, and then I would like edit them into like comic books where they're speaking with word bubbles. It then led to me making like banners, all these sorts of things, and design was my first love.
Were you making these stories yourself too?
I kind of was, and you can kind of say it was like fan fiction, because like a big thing too was I was into video games, so a lot of my subject matter would just be around characters from these games. So Mario or Link from Zelda, I would use them as main characters, and I would try to make a spin-off of what would happen if this character did this or did that. And just naturally doing that, you realize that you just get better with the program. and you start to pick up the theory behind it, right? Like contrast, brightness, layers, paint buckets, gradients. These are just common terminology or basics, fundamentals that you just pick up as you're doing it. And then you never realize how long it goes and how much the skills transfer over the more you do it. And especially now when we look back, because I've been doing it for over 10 years professionally, but even before that, I've been married to the game for another 10 years, just doing it to get my skills up. So you start to realize that once you get good of it, you can then use those skills and transfer them to like new areas that you explore. And then that led to things like photo and video and music and just putting them all together. So it's a lot. It's a lot for sure.
But how did the name Indoléstic come about?
Yeah, that one is all about being creative. And I like to tell people creativity is just connecting things. So I found Indoléstic from the word indolent, and that meant lazy. And I found that growing up, I was a lazy kid. I was like that type of kid that they would give me homework and I'd be one of the first ones done. I'd be one of the first kids to hand it on in. And maybe it's not because I was smarter. I think I just approached doing the work differently, maybe from others. And that being said, I didn't really like to do that work. So I like to consider myself lazy. But instead of using the word lazy, I felt like it'd be cool to find a better word. So I remember going on dictionary.com and the word of the day was indolent. Yeah, so that was the word that brought in Indoléstic. And now when I look back 10, 20 years later after using that name, because I've been using that name since grade 5. Yeah, I've been using that word Indoléstic since grade 5. That being said, I took away the NT and added the stick to just make it sound cooler.
Yeah, more artistic.
Right? But again, just looking back at it, that I was this lazy kid, but now I look at myself as like a workhorse. Like I just be working all the time, doing all this stuff. So I feel like I'm the complete opposite of lazy these days.
Yeah, I feel like even when you said lazy, I was like, Michael, lazy. I was like, what do you mean? You were making comics in your free time with a full story and all? That's not really lazy. But then even when you said like, I submitted my homework as soon as it was given, I'm like, do you know what lazy means?
Yeah, maybe it was like I wanted to get these things done so I can be lazy.
Yeah.
A big thing about...
So you were more like trying to just get it over with.
And you know what? A big thing about it too is I found that being lazy, at least when I was a kid, because I remember being a kid, it felt like you had all this free time in the world, right? Oh, I don't know what to do with my free time. I can play games. I could do this. I look at it where I was spending my time creating, and that was my outlet to kind of just like... again, I'm doing the work to not have work to do so I can be lazy, but being lazy would make me be creative. Like it would kind of, get my mind going, because again, there's not much to do. So the only way to get my mind going is through my imagination. Yeah. All these ideas that I had, whether it was like playing games or drawing or any of these little ventures that I would do.
Yeah. What about the music? I know like Michael's hopped on like our freestyle series, but I thought that was more for fun. Have you ever actually made music?
I don't think so, like professionally, no. But I used to make a lot of beats. So that was a big thing. I was more into the idea of like hip hop samples and all that.
What? I had no idea.
Yeah, well now you know.
And I've been working here for like 1.5 years now. What?
Well, now you know. But what about you? Like you're bigger than just marketing. And again, Vanshika does a lot of our outreach and communications, but we appreciate all the creative minds that come together for this. And again, you have to be creative to do what we do at Rhozeland. So give us a little bit of a story about your upbringing and just what got you here.
I mean, okay, I'm Indian by ethnicity, but I grew up in the Philippines. And then when I was 14, I was so obsessed with Calvin Harris. Like that 18 Months album, holy shit. Like I was playing that nonstop. And then through watching, like just researching on Calvin Harris and his story, then I found out, oh wait, DJing is a thing.
Yeah.
And then in Philippines, like yes, there is like, there's a lot of music fans, but I was really into EDM. Like just EDM was my obsession that time. So for DJing, like I found this like DJ school in the middle of nowhere. That was like, I think like a 2-hour drive. And then my parents were like, yeah, there's no way we're sending you here alone on a Saturday for like an 8-hour class with a bunch of dudes, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really lucky that like my parents used to come with me to those classes. You know, like I used to be in there, they used to wait, and then like outside and like find things to do again in the middle of nowhere. So really it was like random coffee shops and stuff. So shout out to them for like being patient with all that. So yeah, I took that like DJ course when I was like 14, and then I just kept messing around with it in my own time. You know, with like virtual DJ, like all the free things you could try without the equipment. Then when I was 15, my parents surprised me with like a DJ set.
Okay.
And then, because they saw like how much I was like, you know, just doing that stuff in my free time. And DJing on your laptop, like that time, it was just not it, you know? Like it wasn't that, you can't get the cues just right, whatnot. So yeah, when I was 15, like I got that equipment. And then I started making like mixes, again, which was way easier with actual physical equipment. I started posting it on Mixcloud, which is like SoundCloud for DJs.
I heard Mixcloud, yeah. Are they still around?
It's still there.
So,
like my page is still there. You know? Okay. But now I feel like you can like SoundCloud's now like incorporated DJ mixes into their platform. So yeah, like
the game's changing.
Yeah, for sure, and for the better. Like DJing is becoming way more like accessible and easier to learn. But yeah, it started with that, and then I tried, because in Philippines the working age is 18. And then I was still like 15, 16 at the time. So I kept going to these clubs and being like, can you please let me like spin here? And then they were like, how old are you? I was like, well, 16, you know? Then they were like, yeah, you can't work. Like, we're not legally risking it. And then I was like, okay, like, don't pay me. Like, I'll just do it for free. I just want the experience, the vibe, and I want to learn from it. Then they were like, yeah, get out. But that being said, they were chill with us partying there. They were cool with that, but it was just like work-wise, they didn't mess with it. So that time, like, I was just, I was like, I wanted to get into the game as soon as possible, right? So I was already, from like that 15, 16, I was already like pitching my mixes to like, I think they had like Trap Nation, like all those YouTube channels that were pitching things. So yeah, like, and then I started DJing like at my school for events, like our prom and stuff like that. And then when I came here, that's when I like was, again, I was still underage. So age has always been a battle with this, because the drinking age here is like 19. So I started DJing like at like house parties, like in our dorm. And then that kind of expanded to like, you know, birthdays and other house parties. And then when I was 18, actually, I think I DJ'd my first club in Toronto. Yeah. Okay. I was still underage, but that way it was like a university event. So like they were like, well, there's 18-year-olds who could attend. So they're like, for DJs 18, didn't matter, you know? So yeah, from that, it like, just snowballed. So
it's crazy. It's crazy too, because again, like Vanshika and I first connected at a networking event.
Tio Musicians Hub.
Tio. So shout out Cena if he's watching this. Shout out to the guy Cena for just, you know, being the bridge. But that being said, it makes me wonder, because again, it's super cool that you were from another side of the world, right? And you came to Toronto, and what are the chances that again you were just able to just find local culture and then connect with a local grassroots studio like Rhozeland? And again, Rhozeland does everything. We do media, music, photo, video. And I'm curious to know just how you find the difference or the contrast between life or media in the Philippines, or at least that side of the world, and then coming into Toronto and just immersing yourself into this side of media.
I feel like, first of all, there's huge differences, like all good, but like, obviously the scene's different now in Philippines as well. There's way more opportunity there. But that being said, like I think in that time, like I was Indian, like I am Indian, right? I'm a woman. So anytime I said I want to be in the music space there, it was already kind of treated like, okay, she's trying to be homeless, you know? So like there's a lot of like stigma all around it. But whereas like when I came to Toronto, it's like those things were kind of seen as like, you know, no one really saw it as like, oh, that's something, that's the reason why you should be outside, you know? It's more like, oh, they're just random facts about you, you know? So that was amazing. And I also feel like here the huge difference is there's way more money for people to make art, you know, like the government grants and everything, right? That opens up so much for you to even, because art, you really need to invest for you to like even make the art piece, right? Like, yes, it's easier now, but you still need some kind of seed money or whatever to kind of get somewhere, right? To learn your craft. You need Wi-Fi at the very least, right? Which is like not always the most accessible thing in like Philippines. Like again, it's better now, But then, yeah, I feel like the infrastructure just isn't there. And there, I feel like it's a lot more like, I feel like genre also changes a lot with music, right? Like even within Toronto, like how you would market an R&B artist is so different than what you do for a hip hop artist even, right? So that being said, I feel like they're focused a lot on like just pop stuff. So, which is like, I feel like it's working now. Like there were Filipino artists there was a Filipino girl group at Coachella this year.
Okay.
So they are getting places with it, but I feel like that wasn't the genre I was into, you know?
Right.
So I feel like maybe if I was into pop, I could have had a like career there. But I feel like for me, it was like, then after EDM, it was like, I got really into hip hop, like Drake, The Weeknd. I was like, yeah, I need to be in Toronto.
Yeah. I mean, the what ifs are like endless here, right? So much we're doing. And I mean, how do you find your time just being at Rhozeland and just even just, you know, doing everything that we're doing from the crypto, the tech, and obviously just managing that with the art?
Yeah. I think like with Toronto, like you asked about Toronto, right?
Yeah.
I feel like the energy is really there everywhere. But even at Rhozeland, it's like there's nothing that I feel like when people ask that, what does Rhozeland do? I feel like a better question is what does Rhozeland like not do, you know? From like graphic design to like music production to, you know, event management. Now you can even buy tickets on our app, right? Like we developed an app. So I feel like it's with Rhozeland, it's more of like anybody on the team, no matter like if they just joined last week or they've been here for like 5 years, if they come up with a brand new idea, the question is never like, oh, we can't do that or this is an obstacle. It's just how do we do that? And it's like everybody's down to just learn it. You know, the graphic designer will be down to take on like, you know, let me do the research for like how do we get like a sponsor for this event or something, you know?
Well, maybe the better question maybe the better question I gotta ask is just, you know, how do you find where the market's going today? Like, you know, where do you think the scene or the city of Toronto is going with it all? Is there more of a focus on tech? Is there more of a focus on art? And what trends or patterns do you see personally?
I feel like they're literally like mixing together now, you know,
Right?
more than ever. Like, even like Departure Festival that's going on in Toronto this week. Like there's before when I came in like 2018 here, there would be like panels on just music, right? And marketing or like how to get your stuff published. Now there's like music and AI, music and tech, or like how to make your AI your manager, you know, how to. So I feel like the tech, like, you know, crossover is crazy. And what Rhozeland is doing with the crypto stuff, it's like it's another layer, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Like helping artists drop like crypto coins and stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'll spin it real quick before you have any questions you want to ask me. But again, a big part of the show is just talking about overcoming struggle and, you know, talking about that journey. And obviously with Vanshika just being from another side of the world, coming here, I'm curious to know, like, what was the biggest struggle or just kind of like thing you had to just overcome yourself?
That's a loaded question. I wasn't expecting it to get deep, guys. I thought this was more like,
It's more about me? No, it's about you too.
Business. Okay, the hardest part. Okay, I would say it's like, I feel like in some ways I feel like I found my people when I came here.
Awesome. And how was that? I'm curious, like connecting and meeting these people.
I'm very extroverted by nature, so I feel like I got very lucky that like I was doing uni before COVID. So, you know, I feel like people were way more open. It was easy to meet people. Yeah. I got lucky that I found amazing friends, but like just to go back to the struggle part, because we're talking about like Rhoze, right?
Yes, yes.
I think the hardest part is like honestly being away from my family. I'm very close to my parents, like I mentioned earlier, right? Like they are amazing people. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like just like missing like your OG people, you know? Like, yeah, my parents and my dog. Like, you know, like I can't talk to them online. That part just sucks. You know, the distance with that, like, you know, missing birthdays or like if things are going on, if they're going through anything, right? Obviously I want to be there, right? To support them through stuff. That I would say is like the hardest part.
It's a big part of it, honestly. And it's just all about like being an adult.
And also, like, it also goes the other way. Like, when I'm going through, if it's like, if I chose to stay in Philippines, if anything was wrong, right? Yeah. Like, any credit card question or anything, it's like, I can ask my parents or someone else is there to help you sort it out. Here, like, you got to figure everything out on your own. And then, like, even in uni as an international student, life is just, we have so many extra, like, admin, adult things to sort. So I would say, like, that stuff. You know, figuring out yourself, oh, God, boring. Yeah. And hard, What about you, though? Like, what do you think is, like, I feel like, first, maybe let's backtrack a bit and go to, like, Rhozeland. What made you want to start Rhozeland?
Yeah, I mean, Rhozeland was for me like a personal outlet and just expression to let ideas loose, right? I remember maybe it was a similar feeling for you, just coming out of high school, going into post secondary. There's a lot of struggle or pressure, maybe that's the better word, from society, your contemporaries, your family, and just the overall trend of again where life and the Western society was going. Roseland for me was just this way to just let loose and not think about that, right? Roseland was just an idea of just creating and feeling good about it, and a lot of these creations were our own perspectives or stories of just living in Toronto. For myself, again, I mentioned that I was a designer. I made a lot of graphic art, but then I remember I followed up with more photography and I started doing more conceptual work. And I found that the conceptuality or just being conceptual was a big part of the brand for Roseland when we started, that things needed to have themes and they needed to have messages. And we still try to do that, but I think it's just opening it up to other people, right? Before it was just a group of friends as a collective. We like to link up, connect, and we were doing things that any other teenager or quote unquote boy group would do. Because again, it was mainly males together, just boys, just kicking it. Things like playing basketball, listening to music, and just hanging out,
Right?
freestyling, doing all these things, right? And we made it more or less a culture. There were daily freestyle sessions. You would hang out late night. Basketball was always on our mind as a daily exercise in the week. Things like that were just always just common everyday things. And I think they just naturally became things that we still value today, right? I still will bust a freestyle here and there. Would love to be a little bit more active with the basketball and all that, but again, like just even keeping that mentality in mind, right? Sports and our music, it's almost synonymous in a way, right? So I like to put myself in that perspective where I'm a professional athlete, and this is my daily job. Me doing a podcast is almost like a post conference from an athlete to talk about their performance.
The basketball analogies are a lot with Michael.
Yeah, I go crazy with my analogies. But that being said, I think it was, again, just an expression, an outlet, and that led to us finally being good at it. And then that opened up the studio, the business side. And I think that was like one of the biggest struggles during the time when Roseland first started, because I think a lot of people just didn't know what Roseland could become or where it could go.
Yeah, like if you don't mind me interrupting, like, because what you just said, right? Like basketball, listening to music, or even freestyling, right? A lot of these things are things everyone in the world might be doing as a hobby. So what was the thing that made you guys be like, okay, this could actually be something that we earn from, that like this could be a business?
It's a great question.
Because like everyone does that. So what was like different about this?
You're so right. And I think it kind of just leads to loving what you do, because at least for me, again, like these were things I loved to do, but it wasn't because I loved to freestyle or play basketball or all these things. It was like I love being a creative and expressing myself. And I felt that, Roseland was the best way to do that. And I thought about it, how can I make that a thing where I can make it a living, right? Like my daily living. And that led to me thinking about the problem, right? Like as artists, as creators living in this moment, we're experiencing a lack of funding, we're experiencing a lack of a network, lack of platforms, and it's easy to talk about that all now, especially when everything is so rampant, right? There's so much social media, AI is everywhere, technologies make things easier. But during that time, it was a lot harder. And that's what made me want to start Roseland and push it as a company, because I felt that, hey, we are the target audience. We are the people living it ourselves, and we're the best people to take on this job and figure out a solution. And it led to things like, okay, we got to be good at what we do. Now we have to have a space or provide some sort of community where people can come to us and trust us. and now it leads more into the idea of, okay, how can we help other people and lead by that example, and it focuses a lot on distribution or marketing. What do you think about it?
I think like I would say like another thing is like the co-founders, right? With you, a lot of them are musicians, right? And producers. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Like that probably played a huge role in you picking like a recording studio as the first space, right?
Yeah. I think naturally, just like you, I love music. I have so many albums or moments during high school or just growing up that helped get me through my adolescence years. But that being said, music was a big part of all the friends I hung out with too, right? A lot of them even made music way before me, and those were the type of people that inspired me to make music, right? I think creativity is just about inspiring people, and again, like when a lot of your friends are musicians, just really pushing that angle, you're naturally gonna go with it too, and again, this dream becomes other people's dreams.
Yeah.
And you start to realize this responsibility of just trying to like make things work for them too, and make the dreams work, because I think we could make it all work. And then it led to the music, right? Music is such a strong medium, right? So it's catchy, it's loud,
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah. There's visuals accompanying it, right? So there's so many different interesting values that music has as compared to a photography or video or even writing, right? These are mediums that I enjoyed, but music just had more mainstream exposure. Maybe
and it kind of fit all of you, like all the founders right?
It does. And again, music is that platform where, again, like I can do a photo shoot for the musician, or I can do a music video for an artist. But I try to always tell people that Rhozeland isn't just music, right? It's multimedia, but we understand that music and artists are a big demographic of what we have. So.
Yeah, or even like I feel like music kind of ends up being the through line, because even like some of our clients are like barbershops or something. Everybody does need like a little bit of music in the background or something.
For sure.
Right?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Creativity is about connecting things. Mm-hmm. So it's a big part to it. And I think there's ways, just going with the current state of where Rhozeland is at, music will still play a big part, but we're just trying to find things where it can kind of streamline everything. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. But I was just wondering, like, that probably had a part to play in like the first space that you guys picked. Like, you made sure it had like decent, like a music setup, right?
Yeah. Rhozeland opened up as
like that was the first physical space, because I didn't see the first. I saw like the second studio, right? I never saw the first one. So the first one, what was that like? What was that vibe like? And how did it feel to get that first one?
Well, our first studio, quote unquote, was actually at the back of a shed that I used to kind of like rent and live at. So it was like this, again, it was in the neighborhood of Rhozeland. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't know, Rhozeland's actually based on a real place in Toronto. Again, we just spelt it differently, right? And that being said, I used to live in that area with a lot of the friends, right? And we would go back to my place and just make art. And I think a big part was music, right? We had the microphones, we had the beat pads, and we do it all. And that being said, I would say that was our first studio. Mm-hmm. When we got good at things and just around COVID, an opportunity came where we were able to take a storefront, right? Like over on College Street. It was actually more of like a private apartment, just like within maybe the better word is a boutique studio. But that being said, that led to us opening up to music, but also having photos, right? Like a photo video area. But definitely there was more focus on musicians coming on through. With the second space, which we recently left too, it was a big mixture of both, right? Yeah. So just kind of imagine where we were at before, mm-hmm. but with more space. Yeah. For sure.
No, because I was like, I know we touched on the visual side with you, but I was like, let's talk about the music too, because that's like the starting like
it's a big core element.
Yeah. And I wanted to correct myself. It's not like the founder is just Michael, but then like Marv and Dizzy, like you guys, and Jules, like you guys are like the original friend group that kind of started it all, right?
Yeah. Shout out everyone over there. Shout out Charles too. We were just a group of friends just in the neighborhood. And we all connected, and a lot of these people too connected through music. So it's a love language for a lot of people.
Yeah, and you guys go way back, and you're still like friends after all these years and making art, working together.
10 years doing it all, and so much more to go too. Mm-hmm. And shout out to all the people that have kind of been through our journey, just going through it all. There's a lot of people that we wish were still here. There are a lot of people that we give a lot of thanks to. And if you ever just feel like you can't reach out to Rhozeland or any of us, you definitely can, and you could, and you should, and we would want you to.
Yeah, because our thing is also like if there's ever something we can't help you with, which I would find that hard to believe. But if ever there isn't, we're also like, we make sure like we can give you the resources for it, you know?
Yeah.
Which kind of goes into like our new business model, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like, rather than having one studio space, we're now going to have partnerships with studios around Toronto. So if you're in like Etobicoke, Mississauga, we're trying to make art accessible for everyone, regardless of any barriers, including geographical, financial, whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that Vanshika was even bringing it up, just because I think right now, Rhozeland is going more into tech, which is why we're here at the Vibe Station, right? The building station. Shout out to the Solana team again. But yeah, just taking the time to really build up this app, this application, this platform, I'd like to say.
The creative ecosystem.
Yes, the creative ecosystem to reward people, right? We think that what makes Rhozeland unique is we're a creative studio that's providing production for a lot of artists and creators. But a lot of these people too need help with marketing, connecting with fans, and even just funding and just, the idea of monetization. And I think what we provide in this new platform that we're building is that solution. We're providing some way to not only take the production that you've done with us, but now you could distribute, promote, and market it while receiving rewards, right? And that would be based through our cryptocurrency token called Rhoze, inspired by the name of the podcast, Rhoze. And yes, like this reward system would be a big way where people would, depending on how you engage and contribute to the ecosystem, you're rewarded on the amount of effort that you give, which can be spent in our platform within the economy.
Yeah, for whether it's Rhozeland services or like buying tickets for events or right? Like kind of covers it all,
tickets
right?
for events, spaces, connecting with artists. There's so many different things that we're trying to still figure out. And even when we describe the idea, it's a work in progress. Our designer right over in the other room, Madiha, is actually doing some user testing and working on some of the designs. So shout out to her too, just working hard. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else on your mind with just like any questions or things you wanted to run on over.
I think to conclude like the Rhoze concept, so can you tell us about like one struggle you had, whether you want to talk about personally or with like any obstacle that Rhozeland had to deal with, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll let you choose. Yeah.
Honestly, if I had to maybe break it all down in terms of a theme or an overall story that I think Rhozeland has always encountered, and I think this is common in a lot of businesses, startups, or just personal lives, is the idea of collapse, right? This idea of collapse, that things can really go south or things can really go where you're not expecting it to. And there's many times, whether in Rhozeland's history or even in my life, and I'm sure you can talk about it yourself too, is where you don't know if it's going to work out, right? You don't know if that relationship that you've been spending all that might work out. You don't know if that big art project that you spend your whole life in is going to be the one that blows you up. You don't know if all the money that you're spending to grow your skills will, pay off. And I think a big part of that with Rhozeland is we've evolved from this arts collective to this studio to this tech company, and all of those evolutions were on the brink of collapse, right? Like when we were this arts collective, being a lot of artists and having all these quote unquote egos could lead to a lot of disputes or arguments, and that could lead to collapse. We were able to bounce back from that and come out stronger and become a business out of that, right? When we started our own studio and opened up the studio, we were going through so many different things, right? Clients and sales and cash flow, and a lot of times we didn't know if, things can continue the next month. But, those times of collapse only made us stronger, right? Those times made us innovate and push for new things, which led us to the tech, right? And now we're here again with all these great people sharing our stories, for other people to get inspired about, because we've been through the collapse. And that being said, it's all about just, I think for me is we've been through so many moments of collapse, but you always got to think that there's always something to improve on. And I think looking for that long-term vision, which is helping people, empowering their independence, is why we're here. And if you keep that message in, you'll never give up and you'll never stop.
Yeah, you answered my next question, which was like, okay, so how'd you overcome the collapse?
Yeah.
So it's kind of just keep going,
yeah,
focus on the message.
You got to
right?
keep going. And I think that's just a big part of it. I want to spin it to you real quick. Anything you want to say to the audience just before we kind of time on out?
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Michael, for I think even when we met was a really quick, I was heading out.
Yeah, that was crazy.
We literally met when I was about to leave the event, and we just exchanged contacts.
And our lives changed forever.
Right, yeah. Barely a 2-minute conversation, if that.
Well, we appreciate you even just being so open to it, because I think a lot of people get these opportunities and they don't even take in that one interaction like that could really change your life. And
but I feel actually, yeah, that's crazy to think about. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years, from 2 minutes to 2 years.
And now we're doing a podcast together talking about it, right? We'll look back at this in nostalgia, just how we're looking back at that moment in nostalgia.
Yeah, honestly. And right now also I'm there's so much more to do.
Yeah. But we'll end it off as the first moment that everyone's seen the podcast. So just what I talked about, one day people will look back at this episode as nostalgia. But we want to thank everyone for being here in the present time and watching the podcast today in 2026. Shout out to Solana Super Team. Shout out to the hackathon. Shout out to everyone here at Rhozeland, the Coliseum. Everyone here. We're out. See you later.